President Obama has ordered a review of intelligence operations in the wake of the Christmas Day terror attack attempt. Plus, airports and airlines are rethinking their own security procedures and strategies right now. Well, Mary Schiavo is a former Inspector General with the U.S. Department of Transportation and an expert of airline safety issues. She's also the author of the bestseller, Flying Blind, Flying Safe. Mary Schiavo joins us this morning from Detroit on this story. Mary, thank you for joining us. Let's start certainly with the top-of-mind subject, and that is Abdul Muttalib. How was he able to get so far?
Well, he was able to get so far because we have lots of people involved in security and a lot of watch lists. Unfortunately, because we have 4 different watch lists and they're progressively more alarming, he did not make it onto the most alarming one, which is the one that's the do not fly list. Before that, there's a secondary screen list. There are about 14,000 names on that. And then beyond that, there's a 400,000 name list and a 500,000 name list. And he just simply did not make it onto the no-fly list, although he should have been. And that's an executive department function. It's a law enforcement function, and they simply did not coordinate.
Mary, people at home, critics will say, wait, his father went to a U.S. embassy to warn them, number one. Number two, there was a report that resulted because of that warning. Why did he not make it onto this list?
Well, that's very disturbing because that's the same question a lot of people had about September 11, and I'm one of those people that's been litigating it for passengers since September 11, 2001, and there were warnings about several of those hijackers as well. 19 of them got through, and there it was a simple issue of coordination along with aviation security. The airlines were performing the security, and it was abominable. So even though he didn't get on the list, the hijacker before 9/11 didn't get on the list either. That didn't excuse the security lapses as well. So it's 2 parts. One, they should have been on the warning list and they should have been on the no-fly list. But 2, you have to perform the airport security.
You may be intimating here about a breakdown in the way systems work together. And I go back to the book that you wrote back in 1997, which I read, Flying Blind, Flying Safe. And you say here, the FAA can rightfully argue that is just doing its job, except that contrary to public belief, it does not work for the traveling public.
That's right.
It works for the aviation industry. Now, before you react to what you'd written back in 97, I also have a statement coming from Janet Napolitano, who is the Secretary of Homeland Security. She said this.
One thing I'd like to point out is that the system worked. Everybody played an important role here.
Okay, but she also couched that statement saying that later on there could have been a breakdown based on what happened with Abdul Muttalib. Are we still having trouble, based on your criticism in 1997, today with organizations across the country that work in different spaces, working together to combat situations like this?
Yes, we still are having trouble, and the system is still breaking down, and that's very disturbing because I based a lot of my criticisms from December 1988 when Pan Am 103 was bombed out of the sky over Lockerbie. And we've had so many presidential commissions since then, each one making recommendations, but we go 2 steps forward and 1 step back. And as far as explosives detection, we scrambled, I was in the Department of Transportation, and we scrambled in 1996 to get 4 explosives detection machines down to the Atlanta airport, and still we're scrambling to get explosives detection machines. So the system is broken, but we're very slow to put it in place. We lose our resolve.
Right, but Mary, on that note then, we have had some progress. 150 machines of those body scanners, those backscatter x-rays, those are going to be in place. Are those going to help us with this problem?
Tremendously so. Now, we've had a lot of equipment that's been available, but we haven't purchased. But the problem's going to be is they're going to put those, I'm sure, in the category airports first. Those are the big international airports. Europe is ordering them as well. It's a tremendous improvement for our security, but we cannot overlook the smaller airports. On September 11, 2 of the hijackers went to Portland, Maine to come through security, specifically looking for a smaller airport where they thought the security might not be vigilant.
So are you saying that we're as weak as our weakest link here?
We're as weak as our weakest link, and we have to have those machines. The profiling did not work on 9/11, and it clearly did not work here. We have to back it up with the hardware.
Now, as the former Inspector General of the U.S. DOT, as well as now being a consultant on these very issues, you've heard about what some of the plans are that the President is looking into. What would you suggest to him right now if you had the opportunity to get his voice?
Well, right now he has to send a budget to Congress when he does the State of the Union. He has to mention this on January 20th, and he has to put it in the budget to get the equipment needed. But the most important thing is for him not to backslide. After every tragedy like this in the past, we've been vigilant for a few months, and then we've started backsliding. It's almost impossible impossible to believe we're in this situation after we suffered September 11 attacks, but we are. And so the most important thing is for him to keep that steely resolve and make sure we are not left vulnerable. The budget has to match his words.
One-letter answer here, Mary. How have we done so far?
Well, not well enough. Mediocre.
D, C, B?
I'm going to, since 9/11, we've improved a little, but for this response, we have to have a D.
All right. Mary Schiavo, thank you very much, the former Inspector General of the U.S. DOT.
Betty.